Hello and welcome to another segment of Interviews That Matter. I am your host Raj Mehta. Friends, in this segment, we bring those guests who influence our lives. This includes elected officials, policymakers, heads of major organizations, and other dignitaries. It is my sincere hope that the knowledge brought in by these guests will help our community. I always think about how did we come about here? What is religion? What is spirituality? What is the difference between those two? Our guest today will answer some of those questions. Today we have Acharya Arunji and Dr. Kapadia. Acharya ji, welcome to the show, sir. Thank you very much for coming this morning.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it. Thank you, Jatin bhai. Dr. Kapadia, welcome.
Nice to be
welcome.
here.
Thank you so much. So, I'm always kind of thinking about, who are we and how did it come here? Difference like scientific, there are scientific reasons why, we came here, how we are evolved as a human being and how the whole society came onto the earth,
Right.
Adam and Eve story and all that kind of thing, right? So what is the theory in spirituality?
Yeah.
So tell us something from the beginning.
So basically, we must look at how we came about on this earth.
Yes.
Many of us know about the Darwin theory of evolution. All of us came from single cellular organisms all the way up to our current state. Between the single cellular organism, which is the amoeba, all the way up until the roof and crown of creation, which is the human being, there are many creatures in between. Now, in spirituality, it is said that the soul that dwells inside of each and every one of us has been in each of these 8.4 million species. Okay? But the soul that is in each is one and the same. It is called the essential principle that allows each and every organism to be dynamic and active. So, on the scientific level, we have the physical, the body, the amoeba, the monkey, we have man. But on the spiritual level, that which dwells and gives each of these life is called the jiva or soul.
So how did the humans started? Like for example, when it has to be a man and a woman,
Right.
and then the birth comes.
Correct.
So how that started actually?
Well, see, the first human being would have came X numbers of years ago
Right.
through evolution.
Right.
But the jiva that comes into that body, the soul, the mind and intellect that has taken the form of that human being, they would have come based on that animal's previous karma. Because I'm sure you agree with me that puppies as well as humans enjoy life, don't they?
Right.
But animals don't accumulate something called karma. Karma is the only thing, the actions that we do now, the results of those actions are the only thing that leaves with the soul at the departure of anybody. But animals, in their forms, they either enjoy or they suffer. They don't accumulate new karmas. Whereas the human birth, that body, that person with their mind and intellect, according to their thought, word and deed, they accumulate new karmas, new karma phalas, which is the results of actions done. For example, if I was a person who liked to harm people in this life, right? I would take the birth of a body that will allow me to do so, like the birth of a lion or tiger. If I was a very good person, if I helped a lot of people, I would take a birth in a new home with parents that are pious, that will allow me to further my goodness in the next birth itself. Animals and tigers, they have the same exact soul as we do. The only thing is, the mind is semi-developed, and animals don't have what we call an intellect. The intellect is special to human beings. As a matter of fact, in the Ramacharita it is said in Balakand, Bhare bhagya manushatana pava, that this human birth is extra special because we're allowed to use the intellect to better our lives, not only here, but in the hereafter. Right, Dr. G?
Correct.
Right.
So, Dr. Kapadia, if you want to add anything, feel free to do that anytime. I'm sure that you have done so much.
When your question started, and Acharya answered so perfectly well, but I can go even beyond that, which hidden thing that you would like to know. But there was a time we were not here, only animals were here. Right. There was a time animals were not here, only the plants were here. Right. There was a time Earth wasn't here. Only one massive, huge fireball was here. And then there was a huge blast, and all the different galaxies were created, and our solar system were created. And then eventually, slowly, the humans were developed. But the energy which created that fireball is called Brahman. That is the Supreme Lord. That is Om. That is what we call is the creator of the whole universe.
Absolutely. And to jump on the fact that Dr. Ji was speaking, in Vedanta, there's something called the law of causation. An effect comes from a cause. From nothing comes nothing. Only from something can come something. Second rule is that the effects that we see around us, the sun, the moon, the trees, the stars, the human body, all of these are that cause in different forms. Third rule is, you take that cause away from the effects, nothing exists. So what Dr. Ji is saying, that one primordial energy that is called, that the saints and sages didn't know what to call. They were actually baffled as to the power and the potential of this energy. They called it Brahman. Some called it Om. Some called it Pranav. Some call it Jesus. Some call it Krishna. Some call it Allah. Some people call it Rama. But it is from that primordial cause that the saints and sages, the great philosophers of yore, didn't have a name for, but they called it God. And it's from that that everything emerges, and it's from that that everything will go back to.
So let me ask you this now, that after the human life came in to Earth and multiplied, right? And the concept of religion, right? I mean, obviously, when somebody was born number one in the earth, they had no idea of Om or Brahma or anything like that, right? So the concept of religion, how did that came about? Now there is I wanted to actually tell you one belief, like there are people who believe that, religion really was created because the humankind was suffering and they had nowhere to go. Okay, except, they had, like, when you're suffering, like, you need something to hold on to, right? So that's how the religion was born. Otherwise, there's nothing like religion. So what is your, how do you kind of, answer to those?
Well, let's look at a line, for example. Point A of that line, we have something called spirituality. Okay? Point B, the midway point of that line, you have religion. Then point C, which is the end product of that line, you have spirituality again. From spirituality, the word spirituality, let's look at it, just think about it a little bit, introspect. Let's really dissect the word. Spirituality means seeing that Brahman that Dr. Ji and I spoke about earlier, that one primordial energy, realizing that that is in every single being and thing that we see. A mountain has some kind of essence in it, but it lacks a mind and intellect to express. A human being can express himself because he has a mind and intellect, right, that is powered by that primordial energy called the soul or Brahman or Om. Okay? So spirituality means seeing oneness in all creatures, knowing that that power is within and without all creatures. Now, what does religion do? Religion actually puts that theory into a more accessible form. For example, in Hinduism, there are 3 pathways: Bhakti, Karma Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. In Bhakti, what we do is we pray to a murti or an idol. And we say that I have a relationship with that idol or that murti. Now, when we have a relationship with such a divine creator that has taken that form, we kind of feel good. So going back to your point, people who are suffering do turn to the murtis because they see it as a form of divine help. And especially in our world today, a lot of people are suffering. A lot of people are downtrodden. Actually, 95% of the world can testify that they in some way in their life are suffering somehow. So there's nothing wrong with going to a murti and expressing your problems to it. Like I would go to Dr. G or I would go to you one day and express my problems to you. But religion provides a platform for me to go to and supplicate myself, surrender all my problems and worries. Understanding that that person that I'm praying to, whether it be Jesus, whether it be Allah or Krishna, that person can help me because he is of a higher power than I am. But spirituality says that the essence of Krishna and the essence of me are the same. That's what we call Brahman. It has taken different forms. For example, in Hinduism, if you liken it to a hospital, in the hospital you have podiatry, you have pulmonology, you have pediatrics, you have, etc. Different departments, cardiology. But it is one hospital. Just like in Hinduism, many gods and goddesses are there. If I need peace in my life, I pray to Shiva. If I pray to Lakshmi, I attain wealth. If I want to be delightful, if I want strength, Krishna or Hanuman or Rama. But basically, going through the bhakti path allows me to divinize my thoughts first and foremost. It is only when I'm comfortable after expressing my troubles to that Lord, or when I've divinized my thoughts, when I've purified my thoughts, called Chitta Shuddhi, that allows me to see the good traits of my Lord and allows me to inculcate them in my life. It is only until my mind is pure and subtle that I can go about seeing oneness in the world. So do you see how religion and spirituality are linked? Religion allows me to attain Chitta Shuddhi, the bhakti path in particular, allows me to attain purity of mind because I am changing the quality of my thoughts. No longer am I thinking about the waywardness of the world, but my thoughts are single-pointedly focused on the good qualities of Krishna, his flute, his beautiful eyes, his beautiful body. They make our minds more pure and beautiful. And it's only a beautiful mind that sees a beautiful world. It's only a beautiful mind that sees oneness in all beings. And that is the crux of spirituality.
I can add a little bit. The philosophy which we talked about a few minutes ago, that there is only one creator, there is only one supreme Lord, and he is everywhere, he knows everything, he is very powerful, he is non-dual. That philosophy is the basis on which all the religions are created. Absolutely. So whether it is Hinduism, Jainism, Swaminarayan, Sikhism, these are all, or Buddhism, these are all Eastern religions. They all come from the philosophy of Brahman, which is described in Vedas. The same way, the similar philosophy is explained by Moses about much later than what was explained by Vedavyas. It was about 3,300 years ago. And from his philosophy, identical philosophy, were created Judaism, Christianity, Islam. So all major religions follow the same philosophy which we talked about, Brahman. Philosophy does not change. The religion has a small different rules and regulations and the way to do bhakti of the Lord.
Right. So, yes.
And small different codes of conduct to follow in the society. Absolutely. To keep a peaceful society. That's how all religions were created.
But all religions, Mr. Mehtaji, Rajji, they are like different rivers on the path to one goal. From spirituality, from that ocean of love and goodness, stemmed all these different religions to actually show mankind the way. In Vedant terminology, there's something called sadhana. and there's something called sadhya. Sadhana means my spiritual day-to-day practices, how I should operate to make myself more loved by my community, to one day attain that self, that God, that I think is away from me. So I do my daily practices, whether it be puja, whether it be charity, whether it be helping an old lady cross the street, in an attempt to one day merge with that supreme being that I call God. God is the sadhya, the goal. Everything else we do is the means or practice called sadhana.
So let me ask you this now. See, I mean, I was going to ask you about the differences between the different religion in the world, and obviously you already answered my question. Then why do we have a what is the differences between this religion? The way we do things is one thing. You mentioned that spirituality at the end is the same thing, right? But why we are fighting then in between the religion?
I have a very good example. It's very short. Before I left, I actually studied in India. I was raised in New York City. I went to New York City public schools. I went to Stony Brook University. Then I left for India to do my Vedanta spiritual studies for 3 years. All throughout my life, Dr. Ji and Mr. Mehta Ji, I've known watermelon. You've known watermelon, right? To be watermelon. I've tasted watermelon. It's so sweet. All of us agree with that. When I went to India, they called it tarbooj.
Right.
And you know what? It was new to me, the concept of tarbooj. But when I tasted that tarbooj, it was just as sweet as watermelon. Similarly, in Japan, watermelon is called something different. But ultimately, it's just as sweet. So God in different religions is the same. But it's our mind who has put barricades that's saying that my God is better than yours. But ultimately, there can be only one truth and one truth alone. There's no such thing as two truths. That is logically impossible. For those of you who studied math, logically impossible to have two truths. Only one truth is there that's been so gracious as to take the form of Jesus, Krishna, Allah, Jehovah, and so on. Dr. Ji?
See, we hear from everybody's mouth, but we don't read. If we all read the scriptures, they all have the same meaning and same description.
Right.
But because we hear and then accept whatever the other person is saying without confirming what is right and wrong from our own scriptures, we become fanatic. And then we don't like the other people. But if you read Jainism book or Buddhism book or Hinduism book or Bible, it all says exactly the same thing. It's just we heard different things from different mouth, and without confirming through our own scriptures, we believe that, and then don't confirm what is right and what is wrong. So we believe that what we heard wrong is right. That makes us fanatics.
But all these books like Quran or Bible, that has been written by somebody.
Correct.
Right? That means, they got the message from somewhere and they wrote in. And now interpretation is the problem, right? Like I may interpret some way where they're different than you.
Absolutely right.
I mean,
This is where the problem lies, Mr. Mehta.
Right.
The problem lies with interpretation of the scriptures.
Right.
As a matter of fact, if you were to boil all scriptures down into one pot,
right.
the essence that you would get at the bottom of that pot would be two words: do good. That is the essence of all religions. Just do good, purify your mind, and have a single pointed focus on the goal of God realization.
Okay,
If you could have done that, then you would have been practicing all religions.
So now when you say that, all religions that boil down to one thing is that do good. Why do I have to do good?
Well, the answer is simple. Do you want to live a life that is selfish? Do you want to live a life that causes you to be angry, that causes you to be jealous, that causes you to be lustful? Where do these things lead you to in the long run? Only one word: sorrow. The person who does good is loved by the world. The person who does good moves up in his society. the person who does good one day cultivates enough purity of mind to attain the self. Do you see?
Now, see, the science, like, for example, Dr. Kapadia, he's a doctor, so he would probably, I'm not a doctor, but he probably is a guru here in that subject. Like, there are different chemicals in our body that make you angry sometimes, even though you don't want to be angry. Certain, imbalance of something in our body, right? That affects, for me, being good or not to be good. Now, does that come on the way?
I will explain you slightly differently.
Yeah.
This is exactly both your religion and my religion explains as principle of karma.
Right.
That whatever we do and whatever is happening to us is one thing. How we react to what is happening to us is our purusharth, our self-efforts. So even if the situation is such that it makes you angry, it's your choice. Either you become angry or you control yourself and learn the technique of not being angry and discuss wisely. Now that is up to you. That is called purusharth or self-efforts. So we humans have intellect and we decide how to behave. The principle of karma explains that whatever we do today, we will have the fruit of that action in future. And whatever is happening to us today is because the kind of the karmas we did in the past. So if you want something good to happen to you in future, which we all want, do the good karmas today.
No, the question was that, I want to ask you, rephrase this, that because of the imbalance in our body, even if I don't want to be angry, I become angry. Now, where does that fall?
Okay, there is a small truth to it in the sense that medically speaking, there are different things which happens in our body, happens in our brain.
Right.
And that's how we all react differently.
Right.
If we have a medical illness, there is a treatment for that. But bulk of what we do is not our medical illness. It's our own training of ourselves. And we can train ourselves in such a way that in future or right now, we can do everything correct, everything good. That's where the form or the terms punya and pap comes into the picture. Is that if you do punya, something good is going to happen to you in the future. That's what the karma says. If you commit pap or sins, then you will get the results of the same sins in the future, which is not going to be happy or pleasurable to you in future. So actually, in spite of what happens to you, you have a right to change and you have a mind to change. You have an intellect to change your future by acting correctly today.
Okay, so you're saying that, if in the same life you get this,
Correct.
result, right? Now, let's say, for example, the person who gets sickness, certain type of sickness like cancer or whatever, is that a result of something bad happened in the past or they did in the past, or is there a relation between them?
There are two ways I'll answer that. One, however bad the things are, it could be worse.
Always.
Two, every one of us must die one day.
Right.
There must be a reason to die. And three, it doesn't matter. We don't have to dissect. What did I do bad in the past? The goal is to be a good present and a good future. And for the good future, there is only one rule. Be good today.
So,
Gurudev used to say that whatever happens to you today, prarabdha, is the gift of God, prasad of God. And how you react to whatever happens to you today is the gift back to the Lord. That means that if we do the right purusharth, we will have the better fruits in future. And if we do the wrong Purusharth, and if we steal and cheat and lie and stab and kill, well, we will have the results of that in the future, and we will suffer.
So now let's talk about the reincarnation, right? Next life, obviously. I mean, I'm Jainism. I believe in Jainism, and we also believe in reincarnation. We believe there are 84 million different form of life, and obviously, we have a soul is different from the body. That's what the majority of the religion believes that, right? Soul is different from the body, and when you are alive, you have a soul inside you, and when you're dead, the soul goes somewhere, right? Somewhere. In India, several years ago, I had read an article in India that there was a 4-year-old boy in a remote village. He knew whole Gita. Okay? Not only that, but he also said where he was in the past life, 3,000 miles away. How many brothers he had, how many sisters he had, how did he die, everything. Now few minutes ago or a few minutes ago we talked about that normal thing is like we are reborn in the same kind of same family. Do you agree with this? I mean, how can that happen, like a 4-year-old boy? I mean, is that supports the reincarnational theory or?
Absolutely right. Many religions do not really subscribe to reincarnation. Right. Actually, Hinduism, Jainism, and so on, these religions do. But if you really look at the science of it, you can't help but believe in reincarnation. Basically, reincarnation means that the soul leaves the body and attains a new body, which is brand new. The soul, that body that has died and disintegrated, that energy, that essence has transformed into a new body. Now, what exactly the soul is defined in Vedanta. Essentially, the soul is the mind and the intellect plus the energy of consciousness, that Brahman, that lives on that plane of consciousness, because we all exist on that consciousness level. So the mind and intellect leaves this body and attains a new body. So when the mind and intellect attains a new body, it somehow can recall what went on in the past life. For example, that example you gave is brilliant. I've heard that example as well. But also I've seen on Dateline NBC where a young toddler, must be 1.5, 2, always had a fascination since about a year old to fix jets, fix airplanes. His mother then took him to an aeronautical museum where he found jets of World War II status. Next to one of the fallen jets, he saw a picture. Without even being able to read, he told the name of that young gentleman. Wow. And then upon further research, they found out, because of things that he would say in his home, names he would call. He kept on saying, I was Captain Robinson. I was Captain Robinson. When they did research on the gentleman in the picture, that person's captain was Robinson. So you see how the mind, upon leaving one body, the mind and intellect infused with the power of Brahman, with the energy, when it attains a new body, it can easily recall where it was in the past life.
Not everybody can do that.
Not everyone can do it, but little children in particular from age 1 to 5 can, because their memory is still fresh of the last life. It's only when we get wrapped up into everyday situations that it kind of gets fuzzy and very abstract and blurry. But the reincarnation theory holds strong, especially in the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna in chapter 2 tells us very, very emphatically that upon the disintegration of one body, that soul assumes a new body, just like the clothes are discarded and new ones are purchased.
Is that something happens immediately, or soul keeps on moving around until he finds the right body?
Based on karma again. Based on what I've done in the past and my karmic bank account, right, I assume a body that I am most suitable for. Basically, like again, the example I gave earlier. If in this human birth, I was very animalistic, very like a tiger, ready to pounce on anyone, guess what the next birth would be? The body of a tiger. Right. Actually, in Bhagavad Gita it is said, the last thought that I entertain is the body I attain in the next life. So if I was a horse, a jockey, if I used to race horses in my past life, guess what? At the end, my thoughts will either be on the horse or me as a jockey. And in the next life, I can very well come back as either the horse or the jockey. So where the thought is, where the mind is, that's where it assumes in the next birth. Have you ever woke up one day and felt happy, and that happiness went throughout the whole day, and you went to bed happy? How do you wake up the next morning?
Happy.
Happy. If I similarly go to bed sad, how do I wake up the next day? Sad. So the mind, again, just like we would have slept at death, wakes up in the new body, continuing the same mental frame.
Let me ask you a very stupid question.
Sure.
Because I'm stupid. Anyway, I admit I'm stupid.
That's just your humility and honesty.
No, sincerely, I'm stupid in this subject, definitely.
Okay.
We have a lawn outside, right? Nice garden lawn, whatever. And I just saw 2 weeks ago that a geese had 15 kids, 15 little geese, right? So all those 15, obviously, they have life.
Yes.
So they must have come from somewhere,
Source.
right? I mean, that's how it is, basically.
Yeah. The geese would have attained that same soul that makes us aware. Okay, this body that we have, whether it be a geese, whether it be any animal, that body is a mere vehicle. But the question is, who is the driver? What is the energy force? What is witnessing all my actions? The brain of any animal is a brain. It's a command center that allows me to move my finger. But what is that subtle element that is saying, okay, brain, now move my finger. Okay, move my wing if I'm a bird. What is that subtle element? That subtle element is the God principle or Brahman that Dr. G spoke of earlier. Now this is what goes from body to body, whether a goose, whether a human being, whether a cat, whether a monkey, all have it. The human being is extra special because not only does he have a body, not only does he have a mind that this consciousness expresses through, but he has an intellect to make the right choice.
So let me ask you this now. Young people, like you said that you were also, like Stony Brook University, and you obviously I meet a lot of young people, and they believe only in science.
Right.
Like whatever I can prove. If I can prove this glass, how that's all. That's what they believe in.
Absolutely.
And here, when we are talking about like spirit or Brahma or something, there is no proof of this.
Absolutely right. No proof by the naked eye. And I was just like what you described me exactly 10 years ago.
So then tell us how you changed.
So basically, my mindset changed upon going to India and seeing and studying really under great masters. I studied with Swami Advayananda Ji and Puja Swami Sharadananda Ji under the tutelage of Swami Tejomayananda Ji, who is the current head of Chinmaya Mission. And the way they described it, the existence of God, was so beautiful, so scientifical, and so logical. As a matter of fact, Vedant scriptures, the Upanishads, are based on logic and logic alone. So the example they gave me to prove, to actually cement that God exists was this.
Yes.
He said, look at this table. What is it made of? I said, wood. He said, very good. Then he said, what is wood made of? I said, quartz, protons, neutrons, electrons. He said, good. What is smaller than the proton, neutron, electron? I said with my, quote unquote intellectual thinking, the God particle. He said, okay. What is God particle? Energy, I said. Then he said, what is energy? Then I said, something that exists. He said, very good. Then he said, according to Shastra, Vedant Shastra, what is the first name of God? Because I've been in Sandipni Sadhalai, our Gurukul, I knew what the first name of God was. Sat Chit Ananda. Okay? Sat means existence. Chit means consciousness. Ananda means bliss. Then he told me, focus on that first word. What was that? Sat. Then he said, exactly. Sat equals existence. When you break any object that you can see with the naked eye down to its essential nature, basically it is energy. And what is energy? Just something that exists. Therefore, God is in and without everything. When this human body would have been cremated into ash, I would have existed in a different form. But the mere fact that I exist links it to that first name of God, which is Sat, just plain existence. So that was the theory that was taught to me. That made it absolutely clear. Okay? Scientists love to prove things in the test tube. Isn't that true?
Right.
If they can't see it in the test tube, then it's false. But that is objective knowledge. Now it's time for us to do subjective awareness. Who is the person witnessing? Who is the person asking questions? Who is the person that thinks every second of the day? What is that thing that allows me to think? That is the question. And if you really dig deep, drill down to the bare essence, it's nothing but God. If I break the table down to its bare essential nature, it is just existence. Everything you see, as a matter of fact, is temporary and one day attains a position of just existence, which is God.
Nice, very nice.
As a matter of fact, the whole philosophy we talked about in the first part of our talk, that philosophy is the knowledge of Brahman. On that philosophy, all the religions are based, but that philosophy is so scientific that any scientist who studies that philosophy will agree that this is the most scientific literature ever. So it is science. The only difference is that the science we know is all the investigations of the objects outside, and the science we talk about, which is philosophy, is the science of inside the body, the Atman. That is the only difference. Both of them are perfect science.
Correct. The unseen versus the seen. Yeah.
We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Please stay with us. Welcome back to Interviews That Matter. I'm your host Raj Mehta. We are continuing our conversation with Acharya Arunji and Dr. Kapadia. Now let's talk about the Chinmaya mission, right? How it was started, who started it, and how it evolved, and what is the basic principle of the mission.
Okay. Chinmayananda, the founder of Chinmaya mission, he was also not believing in God. He was master's in English in British time, and he actually went to Shivananda ashram to prove that this Shivananda is a joke. He's not honest. He just makes up the stories, and he just wears orange clothes. He thinks he's God. So he wanted to expose the rishis and swamis. When he actually went there, he changed himself, and he himself became Swami. And he established this Chinmaya mission in 1952, approximately 62 years ago. Right now, the current head of Chinmaya mission is Tejomayananda. We have about 350 centers all over the world, on all continents. And each one has thousands of members. And what the mission basically does is to teach what is religion, teach what is philosophy, teach what is dharma. That's all it does. The head of Chinmaya mission, who is currently there, Tejomayananda, he's coming to New York. And he's coming for the first time.
Okay.
And he will be here 7th, 8th, and 9th of July.
Okay.
And we kept his 3 days series lectures in Hindu Temple Auditorium in Flushing.
Okay.
And we actually invite you and everybody else to come and enjoy the free lectures, free dinner. Extremely learned, honest human being. Once you listen to him, you will fall in love with him.
Tell me something, what is the subject of that 3-day mission, and what the viewers can learn from this 3-day investment?
So this 3-day lecture by Swami Tejoanandaji, Puja Swamiji, Guruji we call him affectionately, it's a talk on tips of happy living.
Okay.
Now it's basically small sutras, about 12 or 13 sutras, which are just line statements of how to be happy.
Okay.
But Puja Guruji has a style of keeping it very simple, very lucid, but at the same time very deep. So he goes into each of these lines, which I won't reveal it now because I want the audience to be surprised on those 3 days. But he goes into these simple ways of being happy in a very busy, chaotic world. And it's simple ways based on the philosophies of Vedanta that we can apply directly in our lives to make not only our own lives happy, but the ones around us happy. Because it's only the happy man that can make other people happy.
Right.
So this is basically what he'll be talking about. This will go on at the Ganesh Temple in Flushing, Queens. And it will be from July 7th, 8th and 9th.
And timing?
6:30 to
8:30.
8:30 at night, every night.
Every night.
Yeah.
7, 8, 9.
7th, 8th and 9th of July.
And 6:30 to 8:30.
Yes, and I think the address will be posted on this same interview soon. Yeah, so you can just take a look at that address, and please, all of you, more than welcome to come. All of you will be blessed tremendously by God to be there.
Or you can look it up at the website chinmayanewyork.org, and it will give all the description of the event.
It'll truly be a blessing to be there.
So even if I'm busy from morning till evening doing whatever I do, earning my living and my family, I can still learn from this 3-day mission, and I can still adopt something to make my life better.
Absolutely.
And happier for other people also surrounding me. That's the whole goal, basically?
We know that you will be coming hungry, so we'll provide the dinner to every single person.
So not only will you have food for thought, but you'll have food for the belly as well. Only the happy man can concentrate and be happy in the world. So there'll be tremendous food for thought. Swamiji is excellent for all age groups, from young adults to children to the elderly. They all can learn from Guruji.
Wow, so all, including children, can learn. And this will be conducted in English? In English, correct?
Yes.
So every child can come and learn.
And very little children, we have free babysitting service.
Correct.
Okay, that's great.
So if parents have little, very small children, bring them along because there'll be free babysitting. And it's in the beautiful Ganesh Temple auditorium.
Right, yeah. Do you have any other message for the community, for our community, obviously, then?
We have approximately 20 to 25 different activities in New York metropolitan area.
Okay.
And once again, if you go to chinmayanewyork.org, it does have the calendar. So every few days, we have an adult study group. We have large Bal Vihars where children go on Sunday morning and learn about the religion, about spirituality in the simplest words, simplest stories. And it is good to learn that's what it's our parents' job, to give sanskar to the children.
There you go.
So in a busy world, these children, they come to Bal Vihar, which is our youth children wing. So we have Bal Vihar, we have CHIK, which is Chinmaya Yuva Kendra, where we meet twice a week in Manhattan, and we discuss the Bhagavad Gita, we discuss a text called Sadhana Panchakam and other Prakarana Granthas, introductory text to Vedanta. So the youth wing is developing, and the children's wing, because the youth are the future of the world. And when you have a youth that is balanced with culture, education and religion, sky's the limit for them.
Well, one thing I must tell you, Acharya ji, I really want to congratulate you for adopting this way of life in early age.
Thank you.
But I definitely want to congratulate you, and really, for your dedication and making a difference in the life of people. That's the key.
Rajji, it stems from being around positive people like yourself and Dr. Kapadia and all our family members. Like, I come from the Gosai family, and just being around them just molded me to be a better person and wanting more in that way. So this is the only way I can really give back to society, because when you give, you get. That is the rule.
My belief is that even if I put a smile on one person's face in a day,
You've changed him.
I changed them.
And you've changed their own little world. You
Right.
see that?
Yep. So I made 2 people laugh today, so I'm okay. I did okay.
I must tell you from past experience that you're a very jovial person, and that's why I agree you are younger than I am.
Used to-
Right on the
Right on TV.
on the air.
Guruji used to say, the best way to be very happy all your life is to make the people around you happy.
Absolutely right.
And you know who is that Guruji?
Tejavananda.
Dr. Kapadia. Dr. Kapadia is my guru,
Yes.
and we have learned a lot from him. We have enjoyed a lot of good time with him, and thank you so much, Dr. Kapadia, for today's program. Really,
Thank you.
and you do give lectures, and you do give in many places senior citizens, and like around here in New York area. So we definitely appreciate your changing of life also from your practice. I mean, he has the largest practice in Long Island for the pediatrician in Hempstead, and on top of that, he does everything like this. So that's really appreciating
Very commendable.
Thank you.
from the community, and I want to thank from the community to you for this.
Thanks.
See, it's all about association, Rajji. When you associate yourself with just brilliant people,
Right.
you yourself are elevated.
I agree.
So the best thing we can do, especially the young people out there,
I agree.
associate yourself with the best people you can find, and your life is guaranteed to be success.
Totally agree. I totally agree with you, 100%. I mean, we were 4 brothers, and we were like, totally different, smaller place to a larger place, and there is a big difference between our thinking also. Because we are made who we are surrounded by.
Absolutely right.
That's the key, right? So thank you so much for your time today.
And thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, comments, you can email me at rajmitv@gmail.com. That's again rajmitv@gmail.com. You can also watch our prior shows on YouTube at youtube.com/Infosys International. Again, that's youtube.com/Infosys International. Until next time, have a great week. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.